everyone, welcome back to Cars and Zebras. Today I have another featured drag race, so I sure hope that you enjoy it. If you find the video entertaining, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because I do post these videos regularly, and also make sure to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. I do appreciate you watching, so without further ado, let's get to our featured drag race. This is a 1970 Chevelle, and I know exactly what you guys are thinking. And you are thinking... Alright.
Oh, Christ.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
You're thinking, holy cow, Cars and Zebras, you did it. You got the holy grail Chevelle, the 70 LS6 454 fire-breathing monster.
Let me tell you what Melba Toast is packing right here. I've got 411 posi track out back, 750 double pumper, Edelbrock intakes, Ford over 30, 11-to-1 pop-up pistons, turbojet, 390 horsepower. We're talking some fucking muscle.
No, not quite. This is actually an SS396. And before you leave the video, just hang in there. I'm going to explain to you why this car is so fantastic and why back in 1970 and today, it is such a great deal.
Yeah, well listen, you ought to ditch the geeks you're in the car with now and get in with us, but that's alright. We'll worry about that later.
Let's start with a little bit of history, shall we? In 1970, there were many engine options available in the Chevelle. The lowest rated engine being the 155 horsepower, 250 cubic inch straight six, and as we already said, you could option all the way up to that absolutely succulent LS6, 454 cubic inches, 450 horsepower, well, rated 450 horsepower. I think we all know it was a lot more than that. Yeah, just give me a second, you guys. I gotta change my pants real quick. Priced just below the LS6 was, of course, the Super Sport 396, and it was a great option at a great price. Oddly enough, even though it was called the SS396, it actually was not 396 cubic inches. For 1970, Chevrolet had actually taken the 396, performed a 0-30 overbore, which then boosted up those cubes to 402. So why did they call it the SS396 instead of the SS402? Well, it was more about reputation at that point. The SS396 was known for being a monster, and they didn't really want to change that at this point. But the even bigger question is, well, why did Chevrolet even do this? Why did they perform an overbore on the 396? It was a great engine. It didn't really have that many problems, it put out fantastic power, and it was selling like crazy. People loved that big block. Well, there's no exact answer. It was speculated they did this because engines over 400 cubic inches had slightly different emission regulations, so maybe that was a factor. But I guess we'll never know for sure, so let's just move on. This car features the middle-of-the-road 396, that being the L34. 350 horsepower at 5,200 RPM, 415 pound-feet of torque at 3,400 RPM, with a 5,500 RPM redline and 10.25-to-1 compression. The bottom line, this car was bringing it, and it had some game.
You know, Jeannie, I was thinking that maybe you and I can get together over the summer. I mean, it'll be legal. I mean, we can make things happen. I'll keep it. I'm so worried. I promise, I swear to you.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not an LS6, but it is still a fantastic engine option, and it came with a great price, and we're going to talk about that later. Let's talk transmissions. There were only a couple of them available in this SS396 package. Of course, there was the M20 and the M21 4-speed manual. This car does feature a 4-speed manual. I just don't know if it's a close ratio or not. And then, of course, there was still the extremely robust TH400 3-speed automatic, also available in this car. To absolutely smoke those rear tires, this car features a somewhat conservative 331 gear. Of course, that's housed in a 12-bolt Chevrolet rear end. And if you so choose, you could option all the way up to a 410 gear. Now, speaking of options, posi traction was not standard equipment on the Super Sport cars. it was still an option. So if you wanted a rear locker, you had to spring for the G80, which was $42. The 1970 Chevelle SS396 was a little bit chunky. Curb weight was just over 3,600 pounds. This car is reportedly coming in at 3,900 pounds. The pricing of the 1970 Chevelle is where things get a little bit interesting. The Malibu started around $2,800, but to get the SS396 package, you had to add $445. Now here is the interesting part. That SS396 package that you just paid about $450 to get did not include the cost for a transmission.
Damn it!
You then had to pay more money to get a transmission. The M20 or M21 4-speed manual was another $184.80, or if you got the TH400, the 3-speed automatic, that was $221.80. So all in, if you got a manual transmission, it was going to be about another $630 over the cost of a Malibu. Or if you got the automatic, it'd be another $667. So all in, the car would be between $3,400 and $3,500, which, accounting for inflation today, would be about $23,000 bucks. In 1970, the Chevelle sold extremely well. Now, if you include the Malibus, the Chevelles, and all the wagons, there were over 440,000 units built. The L34 SS396 cars, like ours featured, well, those sold just over 50,000 units, so that's quite a few. Oddly enough, the L78 396, there were about 2,100 units, and the LS6, there was 4,400 units. So actually, and please, Chevelle enthusiasts, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like there were less L78 SS396 cars sold in 1970 than the actual monster LS6 454. Original statistics state that this car could run 0 to 60 in 6 seconds and the quarter mile in 14.6 seconds at 96 miles per hour. Gas mileage was between 10 and 11 miles per gallon, which you weren't going to go very far because this only had a 20-gallon fuel tank. Prices for Chevelles right now are all over the place. It's an extremely popular car, but there's also a lot of clones, so it's a lot more pee in the pool right now. But if you can find a nice SS396, and it's not necessarily numbers matching, and a hard top, you're probably looking in the $30,000 range. But for those that are numbers matching and in great condition, expect around $50,000. The LS6 cars, yeah, you're going to spend a lot more than that. Unfortunately, as these cars get older, they really aren't getting any cheaper.
That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
And there's even a restored 1970 Chevelle LS6 convertible listed for, yes, $1 million. It's a cool car. I don't think it's worth $1 million. And to finish up, here's a little bit more interesting information about the 1970 Chevelle. In the SS396 cars, expanded gauges were not standard. If you wanted a tack, you had to pay a little bit extra and purchase that. And speaking of options, you could even get a rear windshield defroster, and it cost $20.85. Now, all Supersport 396 cars came standard with the F41 Special Performance Package. This included front and rear suspension heavy-duty springs with matching shocks, boxed rear lower control arms, a 1 1/4 inch front sway bar, which was a 1/4 inch bigger than the standard Chevelle, and it also then included a rear sway bar. And here is something I thought was extremely interesting about the 1970 Chevelle, and this does not pertain to the SS396, but in the 6-cylinder cars and those with a 307 or 350 V8, you could still get a Power Glide automatic. You could still, in 1970, get a 2-speed Power Glide automatic in a Chevelle. I did not know that. I forgot to mention this earlier, but this car actually features one of the coolest options available on the 1970 Chevelle, and it was a brand new option that year, that being the Cowl induction hood. And how cool are these things, man. When you get on the gas and they open up a little bit, I mean, I don't know if they really do that much for power, but those things, come on. Come on. It's pretty awesome.
Say, man, you got a joint?
No, not on me, man.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
And before we jump to the other car, there's one more thing I want to leave you with, and that is this original print ad for the 1970 Chevelle SS. Pretty obvious, but Chevrolet, you dog, you into some dirty stuff.
Once you go taco, you never go back.
This is the opponent of our Chevelle, that being a 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger. And you guys know exactly where I'm going with the Swinger reference.
Are you kidding, baby? I put the car in Swinger, baby!
To truly understand the Dodge Dart Swinger, we have to go back 1 year to 1968, because that was when Plymouth released the Roadrunner. It was a stripped down car with an absolutely beefy 383. So for a minimal price, you could go pretty damn fast. Naturally, Dodge saw this and thought, you know what, we could do something similar even with our smaller car, the Dart. We'll pack it with a 340, we'll strip out all the options, and we'll call it the Swinger. In the original ad, Dodge even said that this was the lowest priced high-performance Dodge for 1969, and they also promised 6,000 RPM for under $3,000. Oh, and they definitely delivered with the Swinger. As you would expect, the car came with a 340 cubic inch engine. It was rated 275 horsepower at 5,000 RPM. By now, everybody knows these were significantly underrated, and they were making more along the lines of 325 horsepower. And torque was rated 340 pound-feet at 3,200 RPM, and it also featured 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. Dodge was very smart with this car. They knew exactly why people were going to buy it, and that was to abuse the daylights out of it. So they took a few safety measures. That includes a forged crank with larger crankshaft mains, heavy-duty connecting rods, forged pistons, and it even came with a much more aggressive cam. But wait, there's more! It also came with dual exhaust, rally suspension, a heavy-duty limited slip differential. The exterior also had a cool stripe on the back and a performance hood with very subtle power bulges. Bulges.
So bulgy. Like a big caramel apple. I'm scared. I feel safe with you.
There were two different transmissions available in the 1969 Dart Swinger 340. The first was a 4-speed manual, but this car actually features the 3-speed automatic, of course that being the tried and true Torqueflight. There were 3 different rear gear ratios available to help you destroy those rear tires. There was a 323, a 355, and a 391. This car features the 355 gears. As you would expect, the curb weight of the Dodge Dart Swinger 340 was absolutely fantastic. It came in at only 3,186 pounds. Our featured car, as it sits, is reportedly coming in at just over 3,400 pounds. As we had already discussed, Dodge had marketed this car as having great performance at a low price, and they definitely held up their end of that deal. Without any options, the 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger 340 came in at only $2,836. Now, adjusting for inflation, that would be about $19,800 today. And that was a screamin' deal back then. Of course, this was cheaper than the Dodge Dart GTS, and it was cheaper than the Roadrunner. So I guess you could say that the 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger was, well, a swinger.
Oh, this is so relaxing.
Thanks for inviting us.
Anytime.
Hey, are you two into trying new things?
Are you talking about what I think you're talking about?
I hope so.
My new pastrami and Swiss ciabatta sandwich? Hot and hearty pastrami with melted Swiss nestled between warm and toasty ciabatta bread?
Yeah. Let's make a Jack sandwich.
Sales were pretty good that year for the Dart. They sold around 106,000 darts in total, with 16,000 of those being the Swinger 340 and around 6,700 being the GTS models. Original statistics from Car Life magazine in 1969 stated that the Swinger 340 could run 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds and the quarter mile in 14.82 seconds at 96 miles per hour. Meanwhile, it was rated between 12 and 13 miles per gallon, which really wasn't terrible for that time, and prices today are all over the place. Non-numbers matching cars you'll probably find in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, but for a numbers matching Swinger 340 that's in pretty good shape, expect between $30,000 and $40,000. If you find a GTS car, it's probably going to be a little bit more yet, especially if you find that holy grail GTS 440. So even if you try to convince yourself that you are not a fan of the Swinger 340, you know you are. You know you love it.
Say it's true, even if it isn't.
But enough talk, let's check out our featured drag race.
Mark Barker, going since 1970. Chevelle Super Sport 396. It's got the base 396, which is 350 horsepower. He is going against Ty Tacone with his 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger 340. The winner of this one is going to be the Mopar in the right lane, 14 flat at 96 miles per hour, 102. Mark Barker owns this 1970s Chevelle Super Sport 396, 350 horsepower, 4-speed, 331 gears. Family owned since 1972. Ty Tacone from Spencerport, New York. He's got this 69 Dart Swinger 340, which is basically a Dart 340 given the Roadrunner treatment. That's the way to describe it. It looks like the Chevy is the lead and the win. 1392, 100 miles per hour. Beating the Mopar's 1403.
Again, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future drag race videos, and of course, I'll see you at the next one.